Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Logbox. As you can tell, my voice is a little off. I'm still recovering from a cold. I don't know what it was, but I've been coughing, and my lungs have been rumbling for like a month. And my prescription just ran out on Friday, and I got to go back and renew it because I thought I was fine, so I didn't renew the prescription. But it turns out as soon as it wore off, everything came back with a vengeance. Forgive me for being gross and disgusting, but you know I didn't want to cancel my Sunday comics. So nobody's here yet, so I'm filibustering. First one in, as normally. Let me know if we look good, sound good. Um, a few people have been asking me on my video last night with Master Swag King. I had a Hey, Michael Williams is here. Michael, how do we look? How do we sound? Master Swag King. I had a blue thing on my wrist. People were emailing me. Were you in the hospital? Were you not? No, I was not in the hospital. I forgot to take it off. It was my brother's retirement party, and they like sectioned off the restaurant. There was two parties going on, so the blue people were over here at this party, and the red people were over there at that party. So yeah, everything. Well, thank you for the concern. Yeah, I know I was saying I'm sick, and then I show up on a live stream with look like a hospital bracelet on, but no. Okay, Michael. Hey, Marcus is here. Okay, so let's say hello. No one is here. Yeah, you're here. Marcus is here, and all is well. Okay, good. I'm just going to filibuster for a second or two, and I'm going to talk. So this Sunday Comics is this very special Sunday Comics. This is a weird one. It's going to be freaky deaky. I'm going to be talking about world building. Um, I recorded a video last Sunday, and it was 6 hours long. And my friend Roy is editing it and putting it into half-hour chunks, so we could really release it on my channel. It's a bunch of guys. We're made up characters, and from sitting down to rolling up characters to most way through the adventure, we got to do one more session to finish it, and it should be fun. So it's a role playing thing. So this, and then oh God, I can't even speak. Focus. So what I'm doing is I'm going to explain the nature of the universe in my role playing game, and therefore my comic book, because my comic book is set in my role playing universe. But I'm not taking any of my friends' characters and turning them into comic book characters. I don't feel I have the right to do that. So it's all my NPCs being upgraded into player characters of my comic. So for those of you who don't know, I'll shill for myself for a minute. I'm working on a comic book called Heroic Tales, and Heroic Tales is it's mostly focused in Science City. Science City is in Arizona. It was designed by Eon Strange, a very bizarre character who, if the comic lasts long enough, you will learn his story. But I don't want to go into his story now. It's very convoluted and very fun. But Eon Strange is the architect of Science City, and I read somewhere that you could take like a square mile or 10 square miles or 100 square miles. I forget what it was of some place like Arizona, and cover it with solar panels, and you could make enough energy to power whatever the rest of the country. I don't know. I don't know the science behind that, but something made me think about it. That, and then you got like Sedona and all of these wonderful places like the Painted Forest and everything. So I was just like, I was hippy dippy when I lived out in New Mexico, and I always thought like Arizona was like a magical place, especially if you see the Painted Desert. So between all the sunshine and the magic, I thought like, like Yuma, Arizona. My car broke down in Yuma, Arizona when I was driving. I was driving from Albuquerque to San Diego. There's gonna be coughing in this video, so I apologize. I was driving from San Diego. I was driving from Albuquerque to San Diego, and I broke down in Yuma, Arizona in like August. It was like, oh my God, it was death. It was the hottest thing ever. It was so hot that when we finally got the car moving again, we had to rock the car back and forth because the tires had sunk into the tarmac. That it was the tarmac was pasty from the heat, you know. Oh my god, it was just the worst. And I was pulling pieces of liquefied tar off my tires for a while, but that's that. So I was like, there's nothing there. We stopped at a Dairy Queen, and the girl behind the counter said, "There's nothing here. Why are you even here?" She just says she sits at the Dairy Queen all day long with no customers. So so I thought, like, what if somebody was to take Yuma, Arizona, and transform it into a solar powered city? So that is the location of my comic book. Heroic Tales is the rechristened Yuma, Arizona, or maybe right outside. I haven't decided. I got to look at a map. And it's solar powered. And it's, hey, Lacey Lee is here. So Science City is the city of the future. You know, a lot of comic books, they always have the city of the future. And Eon Strange had developed this city to be self-sufficient. And not only that, it was, you know, he tried to sell it to the businessmen and developers, but of course they didn't believe his mumbo jumbo. But it was going to form magic circles, and it was going to trap magic energy from ley lines, from John's long, yeah, from New York to Yuma. Yeah. So it was supposed to trap ley line energy, which is a big deal in my comic, and it was going to form like a magic ambient and focus through basically the city itself, and the outlines was going to form like a scroll. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm very influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, so it was going to be like a living three-dimensional scroll to power and make it the perfect city, the perfect citizens. Everybody was going to be happy, and so it was it was in my game. Alchemy is the combination of magic and science. So through alchemy, that's what Ian Strange was. He was an alchemist architect, and he's still alive. Oh, for a fictional character. He I apologize for blowing my nose, guys. I didn't really want to put this off, but maybe I should have, because I'm blowing my nose. But anyway, Ian Strange developed this, and of course, he went to Philip Manning. Philip Manning is the developer. He's the guy who created the city, and he built it, and he changed. He scrimped on certain materials, and he changed a few things to fit his own ego. So the city of the future, the science part of it still works. There's hydroponic plants and moving sidewalks and all of that wonderful stuff, but the magic stuff of it got a little screwy. So the citizens of Science City are a little odd, and because of that, they were supposed to be crime free and everything. Well, people seem to have bad dreams, and people go a little crazy, and there's all of a sudden a regular criminal will think he's a 30s gangster and call himself Boss Moxie. So you got a little scoop. That's Boss Moxie that you've been seeing in my preview pages. So people, they kind of act like Batman 66 gangs, so the gangs will act weird. They'll put on costumes, so I'm trying to make it like, why would there be henchmen in costumes and everything like that? Why? Because the city is driving everybody crazy. There was this, I'll talk about that more, but now I got 5 people. I'll go into it. Does it have good? Will you have good? Well, right now, after this, we're going to go to Desiree's Bagels, which is right down the block, which is the best bagel place I've ever been to. And I lived in Queens. I worked in Manhattan. I worked in Brooklyn, which is all famous. But the best bagel place is Suffolk County, out here in the sticks, and it is awesome. So thank you, Marcus Kellegrew, for asking me about the bagels. Come out here. We'll play a role-playing game, and I'll treat you to some of the best bagels ever. So without further ado, we got 5 people. We're going to talk about the nature of the universe. This is Freaky Deaky. All right, so in the beginning, this is the abyss. This is the formless void in which all universes exist. And there's a whole story about that too, but that's beyond the purview of this video. So here we have a universe, a violet universe of pure law, and that is Bahamut. Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon, if those of you who remember Dungeons and Dragons. And also, he's the god of the sky in ancient Sumeria. So he is law, he is order, and his color is violet. So, and it is an entire universe. So this is a universe. Guys, I never claimed to be a good artist. That's why I hire Renzo Rodriguez. Over here, we have chaos. And it, to our eyes, when I say it's red, it's to a human's eyes. If a human was able to come to these unfathomable distances and see, it would have a reddish tint. And that is Tiamat, the chromatic dragon of Dungeons and Dragons. And Tiamat is the goddess of the ocean in ancient Sumeria. The ocean's always symbolizing chaos. So these two were chugging around in the abyss, floating around for time didn't even exist, so a second, millennia, eons, that is for philosophers to decide. And what happened? Well, they merged. Okay, they merged. Boom. And then Bahamut and Tiamat, they overlapped. And over here, this was the point where they connected, was the Big Bang. And as the universe expanded, this is our universe in the middle. So we have law, chaos, and then balance. And that dot in the middle, I know some people get offended when I talk about this, but it's that was God. That is the creation of the life in our universe, the creation of God, and he is absolute balance. And this point is the exact center of our universe, which is, heaven. Okay. So we have violet, we have red, the spectrum, and then balance over here. And at this point, it's green. Okay. And they merge. Now, this is the philosophers have wondered. Now, what was the direction of Tiamat? What was the direction of Bahamut? Bahamut being that it's lawful and predictable. They say that it was moving in a plane, but is Tiamat following the same? So depending upon the direction of Tiamat. Now, are they rotating like this? So are they going like this? So will they overlap each other, and then everything will become our universe, and at that point, will it stabilize, or will they keep passing and our universe will shrink? Will they go like this and maybe spit off universes? We don't know. Freaky. You guys freaked out yet? Is this freaky deaky stuff? But this is the creation of our universe and setting up our so this symbol right here kind of looks like, well, I'll get into it with another. Okay, so now this again is a map of the universe. So I don't know if you could see, but right here, dot 1, that's heaven. This is the center. This is the ethereal plane. This circle formed by the two is the material world. This is, for lack of a better term, it's the multiverse. This isn't Earth. This is the universe, but it's not just the universe. This is all the universes exist on this circle. It's between this circle and this dot is the ethereal plane. It is the realm of nothingness. It's filled with ectoplasm or ether, which will also play a big part in my game. Little spoiler alert, some scientists have learned to mine this area for ectoplasm, and they call it proto-matter, and that's what the costumes are made out of. It's a psychoactive matter or proto-matter that responds to the thoughts. So Reed Richards, his costume will stretch with them. So that's my version of unstable molecules. It's actually this ethereal ectoplasmic material that they find in the ethereal plane in between. So and we exist. Let's say our universe is right here. Okay, our universe exists right here on that dot. Okay, so we see heaven. We look up. That's where we get the concept of looking up towards heaven. Anybody with me yet? Anybody bored? Anybody think I'm crazy yet? Can we get some comments in the chat? I'm just curious what you guys are thinking. So right here, all of us, John's Longbox and Marcus Kellegrew and Lacey Lee and everybody, Abrax, we exist in a universe on this part of the Eric Guapo. Yeah, if you just came in right now, you are super confused. And this is why we get the concept that heaven is up, and beyond this is the absence of heaven. So this is where we would get the concept of hell. Okay, so this part over two, since this is law, this is the edge of law, and this is chaos. This is the farthest point any human could survive, because beyond this is all chaos. Matter would break down, complex systems would break down. This is pandemonium. This is a place in the universe that is the last possible place where there's order, even though order is waning, because it's, you go a little further, it's total chaos and total disruption. Over here at 4, I this should be this should be I labeled this wrong. This should be 5. So this is 5. 4, this is the Iron City of Dis. This is the last stronghold of chaos. Chaos can't go. So this is iron. So the rule. This is order and organization here. Beyond this, humans can't exist, because that you need like oxygen to be broken down to create energy, and food to be digested. Over here, nothing gets broken down. It's total organized. Chemicals would break apart into their components and be structured in order. So humans can't exist over here. So that's the Iron City. And then 5, this is the in between. It is actually a sentient being. It exists at the nexus point between law, balance, order, and then the abyss. And it is the last known place. And it is actually some sort of like parasitic organism lives there and created a world that's habitable to anything that goes there. And you get trapped there, and it just like sucks your life out. You become part of the organism, and that's how it lives and eats. It's not really evil. It's not really good. It's just, are we evil and good for eating plants and everything like that? And over here is the same thing on the other side, but I call that the last place. So this is the in between and the last place. It doesn't matter, which one. They're basically the same thing. Although the in between is a little bit more benevolent. You have free will. You could walk in there, and you could leave. So this one is you kind of trapped there. And all right. So Eric Guapo, you glad you walked in on this nonsense? Okay. So now, and I might as well explain this. This whole symbol is a magic symbol. This is called the Eye of Creation, because it looks like an eyeball. Yes, Eric, I'm talking about world building for my upcoming comic. Yes, I know. It's really bizarre. It's freaky deaky. I warned everybody. And then my horrific phlegmy voice isn't helping. Yes. And you can tell this is from a lifelong playing of second edition Dungeons and Dragons. So this is called the Eye of Creation. This is a magic symbol. It looks like an eyeball. And I flirted with the idea of actually writing, and I might do it, because after reading Fiendish by Renee and seeing her making up her own language, yeah, I thought this was some Scientology stuff for a second. Yeah, Eric, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that, and I held off talking about this for a little bit because I wanted people to come in, because I didn't want people to jump in and be confused, but whatever. But this is, for those of you who just joined in, or this is the nature of the universe for I as a kid growing up playing Dungeons and Dragons, inspired by all those maps of the universes. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Say in the comments whether or not you know what I'm talking about. All those maps, the prime material plane and the negative plane for Dungeons and Dragons. I translated that because I don't like players coming into my world knowing stuff and using it against me. So I created my own stuff, but you can see it's heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Yes, Marcus Kellegrew. John has played a lot of D&D, so this is really detailed as Renee's world. But absolutely, I have a feeling that Renee's world building is we are just dipping our toes into the bucket of water. But so is there magic? Yes, there is magic, and I'll explain that. So this is called the Eye of Creation. Oh, I was just about to explain it. This is the first symbol in a system of magic. Is logomancy for the most part. There's other forms of magic, but the most common form of magic in my world is logomancy. And logomancy is writing. So it's D&D magic. You write down the formula for a spell. So I decreed, because I'm a crazy person, that there's 26 magic symbols, but most of the magic symbols are lost. So you need magic symbols to write out the formula, and that is the language of creation. If you that they say that that's the language that God speaks, that's the language that the angels speak, and if you could speak that language, you could rewrite reality. But the problem is we don't know it, and good thing we don't know it, because then we would mess with things. So we only know a few letters of the languages, and this is the first letter. So this is the A in the magic. So you'll see I have a wizard character who's a superhero. This is the symbol that he wears on his chest, the Eye of Creation. And this is how Science City look. Science City is this, and then it has two outcrops. It's Eon Strange, the alchemist architect, designed Science City to be after this magic symbol. Okay. Oh, am I too crazy yet? Do I sound like L. Ron Hubbard? Remember, L. Ron Hubbard wrote science fiction before. Maybe I'll start my own religion. Guys, you want to join my religion? Thank you, Eric, for the idea. All right, so now I want to talk about a little freaky deaky stuff. So this is the Eye of Creation. This point is the exact center where heaven is. This is the ethereal realm, and little John's long box is over here. Could you see that little stick figure guy? He's looks up towards heaven. That's why we always look at heaven. And this is away from heaven. So anything outside the prime material plane would be, to our primitive minds, hell. So only if I can have concubines. Yeah, why not? Does that make you happy? Yeah, sure. So we always look up. So heaven is also, radiant light. So this is this circle, this sphere, really, because it's three-dimensional. I can only draw two dimensions on a piece of paper. This sphere, this globe that all of the universes exist, the multiverse exists here. So you see, my map is bigger than the multiverse. There's a shadow. So I always called this side the umbra of the world. And so John's long box, that would be over here. There would be a shadow version, distended and long. And man, if I was smart enough, I would have put it up on the screen. But it is the upside down. Through drawing this out, I created the upside down decades before Stranger Things. And I know you're going to be like, yeah. I got proof. You could go to www.villainsandvigilantesforum.com, one word, villainsandvigilantesforum.com, and look up a thread called Explosion at the Bank. That was the name of the story. And in the explosion at the bank, the heroes to go into the upside down. And it was years, you could see the timestamp on it. It was years before Stranger Things. Now, I don't think they ripped me off. Let's be realistic. I just think because the what were their names? I forget the name. The two guys who made Stranger Things, they're the same exact age as me. They grew up playing Dungeons & Dragons. They read the same comic books. Nothing exists in a vacuum. So I'm just convinced that they came up with this on their own. So, you could go into, and the thing about I'm going to keep calling it the umbra of the world, just because I don't want people to think I'm ripping them off, even though they ripped me off. From here, you could go into law. Over here, you could go into chaos. And over here, you could actually leave the multiverse altogether into the abyss, places unknown, which only one of my characters have ever actually went into places unknown. All right. Now, here's super freaky deaky. So now this is just the prime material plane, the universe, so outside here, it doesn't really matter. And here is heaven in the exact center. So the closer we get to pure order is violet. The closer we get to pure chaos is red. So if our universe is over here, if our universe is right over here, closest, it's a shade of green. So it is stable. It is almost pure balance. If your universe is over here, it tends towards magic. Okay. If your universe is over here, it tends towards order and science. So if our universe is over here, that's where my universe exists. My Earth One, if for lack of a better term, we exist here. So we have an equal amount of science and equal amount of magic. So the problem is science is tough, and magic and magic is tough, excuse me. Science is easier because science you could just do in the real world. You drop a rock, it's gravity, it's predictable. Magic, plus there's also a group called the Whisperers, the Silent Society, that since the language of creation is the way magic is spoken, they are the Silent Society, and they go around killing people who learn magic to keep a cap on it because they want to control it themselves. That'll show up sometime. So the Whisperer Society, the Silent Society, and their assassin agents are called the Whisperers. Spoilers for like issue 18, if I ever make it that high. All right, so over here, so again, I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I played Gamma World, I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I played Villains Vigilantes. So right here on this line of balance would be Villains Vigilantes. It's perfect for superheroes. You could have a Reed Richards type and a Doctor Strange type because there's equal science, there's equal magic. Over here, the next universe over is closer to chaos. It's more magic. So this is where my fantasy universe is. There's elves, there's dwarves, there's fairies, and dragons, and all that stuff. And over here, this universe is where Gamma World would be. It's Road Warrior. The technology and radioactive zones and everything. And of course there's ways to travel back and forth. So you'll see this in one of my stories with my wizard character. He travels back and forth to different areas. But the problem is when the wizard travels over here, his spells require more and more effort and they're difficult to cast. If he was to go all the way over here, he would just be a normal human. He wouldn't even have magic because he would be really close. He would be in the indigo zone. Once he goes full violet, there's no magic whatsoever. And over here, if you were Reed Richards, your science abilities wouldn't work. Science, you can't predict it. But magic, the common little kid bagging your groceries would be a better wizard than some of the best wizards over here. Now, at this point, I'm just going to pause. I got 8 people. I just want to ask you, does this make sense? Is this interesting? What do you think? So I'm actively soliciting some feedback right here at this point, because I know this is freaky deaky. I know it's not Scientology. No, I do not believe this. This is just my world building. As much as Tolkien, did Tolkien believe in Middle Earth and the cosmology of his world? But this is the cosmology of my world. I just wish I could draw. So anybody in the comments? I got 8 people. Nobody? Eric the Guapo? Okay. Since nobody's responding, I will go to the next slide on my crazy nonsense. So this is the prime material world, and I'm following you. Oh, F in the chat. How you doing? Makes sense? This makes sense? Is this interesting? Is this just a crazy bearded freakazoid talking nonsense? So there is a whole nother dimension. I want to go back to this and explain something. Oh, I just hit the camera. It's fun. Okay, thank you. That is the best comment that I could solicit. It's fun. It's fun. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. And you know what? I was explaining all this and talking about this with Brian Bow and everything, and he was just like, "Yeah, but tell me about the characters." And I needed that because I was getting like obsessed with this, because I've been drawing this model and talking about it for so long that I was excited about this. But this keeps me focused when I tell stories. So I like to think that the continuity will be sound. The way things work will be sound because I have a solid map in my mind. Okay. Oh, Abrax. How you doing, Abrax? I guess you meant solid. Having a solid foundation for the ways things work in here. Yes, that's what I think. That's what I believe. So back to the multiverse comment. So this is, if you play Dungeons Dragons, if you didn't play Dungeons Dragons, this is probably a little too much for you, but I like to think that you could follow this. This is where all the universes exist. This is like empty. So actually, when you die, your spirit or soul will float through here and go to heaven. And inside here, there's actual like villains, super villains that like capture souls, and vampires and demons, stuff like that try to intercept souls ascending into heaven. So there's psychopomps, like, Hermes and Mercury were psychopomps. The Valkyries were psychopomps. A psychopomp is a soul bridge, godlike beings that will guide you, shepherd you, messengers, herald you to the afterworld. So this is, if I ever make it, there'll be stories set in here too, but that's, issue 37. All right, so this is our universe over here. If you go over here to the next universe, yes, there's a multiverse, but no, it is this, John Long's box over here on the computer talking to you. If you go to this universe, there's no John Long box, because the nature of the universe is different there. So that, it's over here is more science. There's less magic. Over here was pure balance, and all the conditions existed perfectly so that I could be this 55-year-old man sitting in a chair talking to everybody on the internet. But over here, there's not enough magic. There's not enough like random chaos magic. This is pure science. I was never born. Matter of fact, the whole world is different. John F. Kennedy didn't exist. Abraham Lincoln didn't exist. But it is another universe with, and there may or may, well, there is an Earth, but it's different. It's vastly different. It is so different that if you were to go there, you wouldn't recognize it as the Earth. So maybe there's not an Earth, but you know what I'm talking about. And over here, it's magic. It's so different. There's dragons, there's elves, there's people with more magic. Of course, I never existed. So so there is a multiverse, but there's no get out of jail free cards. The patriarch, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the patriarch is my character. Like, he's just a character for issue 1. You know what I mean? But so the patriarch dies. Let's just pretend he dies. He will not come back because he doesn't exist anywhere else in the multiverse. Each universe is unique. There's infinite possibilities. So, and at any moment there's infinite possibilities. So there's a 1 divided by infinity chance of those moments ever replicating itself. So yes, there's a multiverse, but no, every universe is unique. It's a paradox. Does that make sense? Let me think. Anybody in the comments? All 9 of us. All right, so let's get back to this. So I was just talking about the nature of the universe in relation to order and chaos. There's also so the X, that was like the XY axis, okay? X, that was the X axis. Now there's a Y axis, and this is thought. So thought forms a whole nother. So this is our prime material plate, and what these are wormholes. These are, what do they call them? Rosencrantz bridges or whatever, tunnels. These are tunnels to an unknown place in the abyss of pure imagination, and I call it the imagination. Neil Gaiman called it the dreaming. The Australians called it the dreaming, and I have no problems calling it that because it is like using the word Asgard. It is a place. So when we dream and when we think, Plato's cave, it is the place that it exists and it doesn't exist. And each person kind of has a little tunnel to this. Otherwise, we can't think. Like an insect wouldn't have one of these tunnels, as far as we know, because they don't dream. They don't have abstract thought. But somewhere something caused abstract thought, and we all have these wormholes. Now, because of superpowers, the paradox, the Superman could fly because he believes he could fly. That's the way it works in my world. You have no doubt in your mind that you could fly because your wormhole is supercharged. It actually turned ruby red. So if you have the ability to detect these thought, wormholes, and I don't like the word wormhole, but I can't, tunnels, whatever, connections, cables, wires, they're ruby red. So it's easy to detect who's paranormal. Oh, metahuman. And I use the term metahuman for my game because they're meta meaning change. They're in the process of changing. So a normal one of these is like a dull color that is pretty much in tune with the frequency of where you are in the multiverse. But a metahuman one like pulsates with red energy, and the more powerful you are, the more it pulsates, the brighter it is. and certain technologies or magic can actually attack this red cord and sever your ability to use superpowers. So even the most powerful superhero could be defeated by somebody who knows the way metahuman abilities work. Now, at the last place and the in between, those, I call that the fontanelles. That's the weak points. That's where order and chaos merge. Okay, so we'll come back here. This is the weak points. Okay, this is the fragile points, and that's where these chords are stable there. So if a chord comes through here, it's not stable, and eventually it'll either fall apart or it'll move to here and become stable. So some people, they could get superpowers. Their chord is not stable. They're freaking out. The powers work, they don't work, and then whatever. Is that making sense? And that's my last slide. We're talking for a half hour on this. What do you guys think? Let's have some discourse. Do you think I'm crazy? Oh, that goes without saying. Someday I'll draw a map of the mental universe, like the way dreams work, because this is all inspired by Dungeons & Dragons. Then I have a whole way of the imagination and dreams work based on H.P. Lovecraft, and I might as well explain this. I'll draw on the back of this. Do I have a Sharpie available? That would be better, because if I was a professional, I would be prepared, but I am not a professional. I am not prepared. Okay, so we also have the electromagnetic spectrum with ultraviolet and infrared. Yes, I think. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. But we also have the counter spectrum. So this is another spectrum that we do not have the ability to detect the energies from, and this is the way you work. So we have ultraviolet. I forget, X-rays. It all exists: gamma radiation, electromagnetic, visible light, and this is the counter spectrum that has infra white and ultra dark. So if you're using ultra dark, that's how you would make like darkness powers. So like obsidian, say, or the shroud, they would use ultra dark radiations and create vast dark abilities. Infra white, you would and somewhere around here you'd make that to make like energy constructs like the Green Lantern. That's all on the counter spectrum. So the way you manipulate these two spectrum is alchemy. Okay, how's that? Okay, so Marcus, yes, I think you're crazy. Thank you. I accept that. No argument. What is the concept of my first book? Is fantasy, superheroes, or post-apocalyptic? Good question. Excellent question. It's superheroes. It's superheroes. But let's get back to this. It's superheroes, but all of this stuff exists in the macrocosm of my universe. Superheroes exist over here in this tiny little universe that is completely within balance in the grand scope of things. So that is where it is. So it's superheroes, but I have other stories that, if my comic is successful, and this is fun, and I'm not spending thousands of dollars. I'm a blue collar worker. You know what I mean? If so, yeah, I hate to sound like I'm begging, but I'm not begging. I like to think that I'm going to be offering a real fun comic book, and I want to try to keep it as inexpensive as possible, because I know, I'm a working guy too. Let me take a sip of coffee. I have stories set in other universes, but right now it's superheroes. But I have fantasy stories that will take place in the same multiverse, but it'll just be over here. And I have post-apocalyptic stories that'll be set over here. But that's depends on whether or not I could be successful. So how's that, Guapo? And what do we got here? And people think the internet is magic. It kind of is. I'm talking to you guys. I'm sitting here in my basement in Suffolk County, New York, talking to you guys all over the world. That is magic. My thoughts are going directly into your brain. That is magic. That's why, the wizards are always poring over scrolls and writing down because, reading was considered magic to people who couldn't read. So there you go. What do you think of this? I think it's fun. Anybody recognize this stuff from Dungeons and Dragons? You could, because to get to the origin of me creating all this stuff, me and my friends, we play in Dungeons and Dragons. So now we'll go back to the wonderful worlds of like the 80s. I'm playing with Carl and I'm playing with Sean and I'm playing with Jimmy, skateboarding and everything like that, and going to each other's house to play Dungeons and Dragons. And they would buy the rule books and the player guides, and they would use that to like rules lawyer into getting what they wanted. So I just agreed that, I'm making up my own universe, and if you use characters in, if you make up a character with me, it stays with me. If your character goes into Carl's world, you've crossed and you can't come back. And that kind of became the way going forward. Everybody kind of liked that because it gave us the freedom of making up our own stuff. And I didn't like that. I wanted it to be familiar enough that it was Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't want it to be familiar enough that you knew what was going to happen beforehand, and you'd be like, "No, that's not the way it works, man. This is a +4 sword because you have access to all these books." And then it just became me building stuff. Be building stuff just because I liked it, and I wanted to be a control freak and have my own world. And from the chat, just a hint, I got to think about the color wheel in Arthur C. Clarke, and that fits in. I don't exactly understand what you're saying, but if you're saying Arthur C. Clarke has something similar, I've never read any Arthur C. Clarke, so let me know. I also don't want to get myself like accused of copying anybody else either. So yeah. So what do you think? That's my crazy universe. This is the grand cosmology of and I was thinking about doing a timeline of the history of our Earth, where the Patriarch and Mary Sue and the Raven and Captain Atlas and all my superheroes will exist in. So it incorporates ancient astronauts and H.P. Lovecraft creatures and Atlantis and space travel and all that fun stuff, Conan type worlds and everything, all on our Earth. Why? Because there is magic and there is science. So all of that wonderful stuff exists because I'm, it's an homage, it's a tribute to Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics has all of that stuff. Marvel has, DC has all of that. So what do you think? I'll just filibuster for a few minutes. If nobody comments, we'll end the stream. But you got any comments, questions, concerns? What do you think, guys? I thought a comment popped up. I got excited. Okay, so it looks like people tired of hearing me ramble on. I'm going to put this in Sunday Comics playlist, but I'm also going to put this into role-playing playlists because it fits both of them. And you guys now know more about my comic than most people because the grand. I'm not gonna first issue talk about all this. That would just drive everybody away. But if you know all of this, you'll see. Oh, okay. Like you don't need to read the Silmarillion to understand The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Not that I'm comparing myself to Tolkien, but I guess I'm comparing myself to Tolkien. But I read The Hobbit and I read Lord of the Rings, and then maybe 5 years ago, I read those books when I was a kid, and then 5 years ago I read the Silmarillion, and now I'm like, oh, that's why Gandalf came back. That's why Sauron couldn't actually die. This is what they're talking about when they're talking about the men of the West and the history of God. It all makes sense, but I enjoyed those things on their own, and that's what I'm trying to do. So whatever, maybe someday, like if I do like an annual, that would be cool to pull all these diagrams in the back like Marvel used to do, like maps of the universe and everything. All right, so there you go, everybody. What do you think? I'm going to close this out, I guess. I'm not getting any comments. Probably people just scratching their head wondering what the hell is going on. But thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you with another video. I got a bunch of live chats next week, and happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.